Doing time with Deputy Mike.
Hi, welcome back to Doing Time with Deputy Mike. I am Mike, of course. In this episode, I have a very, very special guest. He is my boss, and he's the man. So, Sheriff Paul Monroe. So let's head into roll call. Grab your feet and take a seat. It's roll call time. Well, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Paul Monroe. I'm the sheriff here in Trumbull County, and honored to be here today as your guest.
We're honored to have you. Thank you very much. And so let's jump right into interrogation.
Interrogation time.
Oh, Sheriff, if you would, go ahead and tell us about yourself. And
I'd like to be able to say I believe I've done literally every job there is to do in law enforcement. I started in 1985 at Howland Police Department, worked up through the ranks from patrolman, sergeant, detective sergeant. I was the first commander of the Trumbull County Drug Task Force. Ultimately ended up as police chief at Howland for 13 years. Took a little time off when I took a staycation for a little bit and decided I think I'm going to retire. I want to see what this is about. Took 3 weeks off, said I can't do it. Decided to run for sheriff, beat a 24-year incumbent, and couldn't be happier. I love my job and went from being a local policeman, police chief, to being the sheriff in the county, and it was a great learning experience, and I'm surrounded by a core group of men and women here in Trumbull County that do a fantastic job and do jobs that a lot of people would run from, frankly.
oh, well, I know you're busy, very busy man. So what do you like to do for fun? How do you relax from all this?
I like fitness. I run, bike, and swim a lot. I've participated in 2 or 3 Ironman races and finished every one of them. Do some woodworking, spend time with my family, and just regular guy.
I love woodworking. So, okay, let's get on to the subject and let's head into booking.
The booking.
So, a lot of people don't really understand like the difference between police officers and deputy sheriffs. So, Sheriff Monroe is going to try to explain a little bit to that effect.
Yeah, I think I'm an excellent person to answer that question because I grew up as a policeman, spent 29 years as a policeman in Howland, and I'm going to tell you, police departments compete. They compete with each other. Not that sheriff's deputies don't compete, because we have some deputies, the most competitive people you're ever going to meet. But when it comes to a sheriff's office, sheriffs share. And when I say they share, when an area police department's in need, we share our resources, which are very vast. If we have another sheriff's office anywhere in the state and they need assistance, we will send deputies. We'll send deputies to the Ohio River, to Lake Erie, to any of our borders. If a sheriff's office needs help, we're coming.
And see, that's a good point when you said lake or river, because I don't think a lot of people realize that we have a dive team, and we patrol Mosquito Lake. Actually, you bought the new boat, did you not?
Yeah, we made arrangements, and we talked about sharing. We had another sheriff's office on the Ohio River in Claremont County donated a jet boat to us, and they were no longer in need of it. And it served a great purpose because the north end of Mosquito Lake because of the bridge height, we can't get under it. So we had to respond and borrow boats to get up there when there was somebody in distress. We now keep a boat up there in that area that we can drop in the water and quickly respond to any emergency up there.
Quite the gift.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. And and people don't also realize, being a larger department, cars are a major importance. And unfortunately, our fleet, before Sheriff Monroe came along, was in really bad shape, which he has been working very hard to fix and rectify that.
Yeah. To get on to what Deputy Gear just spoke of, our fleet was in horrible shape when I came on board. We worked with the commissioners and they helped us out. Currently, we have 15 new cruisers. Hopefully by December 1st, we'll be on the road. But the enemy of any car is mileage. So when we look at geography, our deputies patrol 637 square miles here in our county. And going from one end to the other, let's say, and we were talking earlier about this, southwest corner to the northeast corner, that's an hour drive. So we collect a lot of mileage on our cars every day. So it's imperative that we keep those cars in good shape just so we can safely get to where we're going.
It does. And on top of that, of course, we are the, what is that, the rust belt. Thanks to all our salt and all that, wintertime is very hard on the vehicles. So, I mean, that takes a lot of toll. You're doing tons and tons of miles. They get beat up. They do get beat up. Also, would you like to tell us about some? We got all kinds of special units.
Yeah, and I'll probably forget some, but as we talked about, we have a dive team. And that dive team, they have a lot of duties when we call them out, whether it's responding to a drowning or an article search or a vehicle recovery. These guys train year-round. We have a drone team, which has many capabilities. We actually have 5 or 6 drones now. We have 5 certified pilots. And these drones have what they call a FLIR system. So in the daylight or at night or this time of year they work. In my mind, that FLIR system works even better because we're looking at heat signatures. So when we pick up a hot spot being, let's say, your body temperature and we're looking for someone, and we get this time of year quite a bit, we get a lost hunter, and we put that drone up and it's 30 degrees out, they stand out. And those drones have a capability with a speaker. It's a one-way system where we can talk to you, and we can light those drones up with lights, white lights, and we could have you follow the drone or at least get you moving in a direction, or send our forces out there to assist you, as well as fugitives. But it's quite the resource. We also have a drug unit, full-time unit, which consists of not only our deputies, but the FBI, DEA, and several local police departments participate with us. And as a spin-off of that, we have a law enforcement entry team, which is made up of our deputies. And if we need to go in at a drug house and do a search warrant, or for whatever reason, we need quick armored response, these men are specially trained with different tactics and weapons, and they deal with the violent side of law enforcement every day.
There's plenty. And then there's us.
Yeah, let's not forget, we call them SROs, school resource officers, and you can never overlook a school resource officer because you don't realize in law enforcement how you may have been affected. Your perception of law enforcement, but it takes a special person to do that job. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, and I would say probably most of the time, these guys never hear about it, about their accolades and whose life did they change, because the students don't necessarily come back and and say, Deputy Gear, 20 years ago you talked to me and I was headed in this path and you changed my direction. We don't know what direction you changed in. Where are you going to become a criminal? Did you become a doctor because of Deputy Gear? But our deputies absolutely have a positive effect every day on the students. At the bottom of the day, these guys are the first line of defense. If something happens here in the school, if you're having problems at home, if you just need somebody to talk to, these guys are here for you.
Yeah, and as with this school, it's kind of hard because the idea, of course, is you were talking about your resource officer. So over the years, you've gotten to know your resource officer from Brookfield. You respected them. You get to know them. Here, unfortunately, we get like 2 years with you.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of work to try to fit into somebody's life or get you to talk. When I first came, a lot of kids wouldn't even look. I'm walking down the hall and they all would look down. So every day I would just kind of stand in their path and say good morning as I'm walking down the hall, which made them look up. And then before I knew it, everybody's waving and saying hello. And
our people are approachable, and law enforcement these days gets a bad rap. And give these guys a shot because they're regular guys. They're just tasked with a difficult job, and law enforcement, especially in this area, has been painted with the wrong brush. Our people are held accountable. They do a good job for us. You don't hear things happening in Trumbull County that are happening in other parts of the country. And, in any profession, you have a bad egg once in a while. We're pretty good at ferreting that out. And we train our people. We respect our deputies. And they do a wonderful job. And some children from a young age are taught to fear law enforcement. You're sitting in a restaurant and they tell a kid, if you don't shape up, I'm going to have that policeman come over here and arrest you. And I got to tell you, that would infuriate me when I would be out.
Yes,
and
it
I'm
does,
in
it
uniform
does.
and somebody says that, because I go right over and I'll sit down at your table and say, listen, whatever you're doing, I'm not going to arrest you. I'm here to be your friend. I'm here to help you out. And, we don't want to be looked at as a threat. We're here to listen to both sides and deal with the facts that are presented to us.
Exactly. And, that's the one of my biggest pet peeves. They see you out there and, little child or whatever is acting up. And when they say that, it's like, because you're teaching them to be afraid of us. You're teaching them not to trust us. Because we're like the big boogeymans are going to come and scoop you up and take you away. And that's quite the opposite. So what direction would you have, what's your vision for our department? What direction would you like to take?
Well, I like to continue to grow the sheriff's office. We didn't discuss some of the other things that we do. But when you look at finances nationally and the direction that we're headed, everybody's struggling. And I would like to see more of a metro style of policing here in Trumbull County, where you have many different police departments that are splintered, struggling, and they're incapable anymore of providing complete services to their communities. That the sharing of information, the resources that we currently have on hand, that it would be more effective, at least in my mind, it would be more effective. And it's the way of the future, is for police departments and the sheriff's office to collaborate more. And we've done that in a lot of areas. And maybe at some point disbanding some of these departments and the sheriff's office just going ahead and providing law enforcement to those areas.
I know that's been discussed in the past, because I've been around quite a while myself.
Well, everybody has their own island, and when you
Yes.
start duplicating services, it's expensive.
It's
Yeah.
expensive.
But in the big picture, I understand on either side. You have a township or a village that has an established police department. They're dependent upon the residents of that community to provide resources in the form of tax dollars to maintain those departments. Not that we wouldn't require additional resources to put deputies in those communities, but we could cut out a lot of the overhead that some of these smaller departments are carrying.
Yeah. And, not to go kind of backwards, but one thing, and we kind of touched on this when we were just talking, but I don't think we mentioned our K-9 units. We got 2 K-9 units.
No, we have a K-9 unit. We have one K-9 is strictly what we call a sniffer, which is a drug detecting dog, and the second is a patrol dog, which is trained in tracking and apprehension. We can do article searches with that dog, as well as track a suspect or a lost individual, and we can use it for defensive purposes. And that dog also is trained in narcotics detection. We didn't mention our sexual offenders registration unit we call SORN, and we have 2 full-time deputies that go out, and a lot of times you'll see that somebody's been convicted of some type of sexual crime that they have to register with the sheriff's office. Well, we go out every month and we check on those persons that have been released from prison. They initially come down to our office and register with those deputies, and then we follow up to make sure they're following the rules and whatever the restrictions that are upon them to help keep the community safe. And they cover the entire county, and unfortunately there's quite a few offenders on their list.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. It seems like it's getting bigger and bigger sometimes.
We didn't discuss our detective bureau.
Yes.
We have a full-time detective bureau, which they go out and process crime scenes, and whatever type of crime that's thrown their way, they're capable of handling it. From a homicide to a bank robbery, the guys are there and they're capable.
Yeah, yes. And then, like Sheriff was telling you, we're also in the courts, and we serve all the papers.
Yes. We probably have 25 to 30 deputies that just work in the downtown area. There are certain buildings that require a deputy to be there, and they provide security, whether it's walking a beat in that building, working a magnetometer, an x-ray machine in the lobby, checking those places to make sure they're safe for the employees that are in those buildings, as well as the courthouses. Common Police Court, we have 5 deputies there all the time, as well as our Civil Transport Division, which is they're bringing prisoners over. And one of our duties is to keep those prisoners safe, whether it's from themselves or from the public, and to safely move them from one location to the other, whether it be from the jail to court and back, or one of our prisons that we're taking them. But that truly is our first line of defense there, and these guys do a spectacular job. The courts issue different types of paperwork, which we're responsible for providing to the public. Whether it be a foreclosure on a home, a legal notice, subpoenas to appear in court, indictments for crimes that a person may have allegedly committed. These deputies will come out and provide that paperwork to members of the public and let them know there's legal notice. You need to appear on this date at a certain court location. And if they don't comply, then there's a warrant issued, and we'll provide another document to you, and we'll bring you to our jail.
Yeah, we'll help pick you up.
We didn't talk about our corrections division.
Yeah.
We have a correctional staff of about 80, full-service jail, 7 floors, and unfortunately, we house the worst of the worst. Everybody that's in our jail to a certain point, is innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
All these crimes these persons have allegedly committed. They just haven't been convicted, say, of a rape or a murder or a burglary. And until that happens, we house them. And so when I say the worst, our jail's a capacity.
Yes.
So our corrections officers are on their toes. They're dealing with some rough people in our community, and we keep our people safe, and we see that they get to court and they get to prison.
And that's a good point, because when he says this, it's more dangerous working in that jail than a prison, because at the prison point, they've been convicted.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're classified and they're sent to whatever level they're at. Inside our facility, they haven't been convicted yet. So we still separate. We try to separate and all that, but
But most of the time, it's more like just sort of scattered than prisons.
yeah, and it could be a very extremely dangerous job.
Understandably so.
Yes.
And I look at our correctional staff as they're good communicators, because when they go into one of these pods, it's not like being a deputy out on the street.
No.
You're always overmatched. You're inside of a pod with sometimes 48 prisoners, by yourself, unarmed, and truly the only weapon you're carrying is your brain,
Your wits.
and being able to communicate, and it's how you treat people historically inside that facility, that you're respectful yet firm and fair, and it's very important in that environment. And some of our best deputies worked in our jail first, and they're quickly able to intelligently speak with people of all classes, with respect and dignity, and handle themselves. And a lot of times that's the difference. You just throw someone in there, and it's truly a sink or swim environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, actually, it's time we move on to, it's my favorite segment, the embarrassing moments. So, putting them on the spot now.
That's embarrassing.
Well, I don't know if you've listened to any of mine, but it's hard to share some embarrassing moments.
Oh, I've got no problem. I've had some spills at work, and I'll tell you two of them. The one I kind of hoped I got away with, I had a crash up on the bypass, and it's a little bit of a grade, and the lady had said, it's black ice, everything's slippery. I'm thinking, I just drove through there, it's not that bad, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I walked up there, and I had my hat on, doing all the right things. As soon as I walked across that fog line, my feet were gone. And I look up, and I can see this semi-truck coming, and it's already sliding in his jackknife, and I just got to start rolling. And I roll through the salt, and, you got these dark uniforms on, I'm just covered with salt.
Salt, soot.
Then I had to go back out there to recover my hat once I was safe. But more recently, last year, I came into work, and we have ice down in the parking lot. I get out of my car, feet go right out from under me, and I'm Johnny on the spot. I'm back up on my feet in the building, look around, nobody saw me. One of the maintenance guys catches me in the hallway. It's like, hey, Sheriff, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I'm fine. Get out of here. And literally in our building, everywhere you go, you're on camera. And I knew that spill was on camera. And these guys got a hold of the tape, and everybody knew about it.
You want to share one since?
Well, actually, yeah. Nah.
Yeah, that's all right.
You got nothing?
I'm trying to think here. No, I don't really got anything.
All right.
But I do have a question. What was probably the funniest moment you've ever had just in sort of like the law enforcement? Like, what was the funniest interaction you've had while pulling someone over?
I always appreciate a good story.
Mhm.
If, and I cut people slack. There have been so many, and it's usually when we get a group of us that have worked together, sitting around, and they'll point things out, and really nothing's jumping out. And I wish I would have had that question beforehand, because we'll sit down and talk about different things. But and I wouldn't say it's the funniest thing, but I was undercover working drugs one time, and we're on the southwest side of Warren, and we had like an emergency. We had a little code that we put out, and I've got other guys that are sitting outside, and I'm inside this crack house. I just purchased some crack from this guy. And we also had this new transmitter, which it had a little button on it you could push.
Like
It
if
said
you
you
were
were in
in
distress. And so the deal's done. I'm trying to leave, and the guy's got deadbolts up and down the door, and I'm undoing them, and he walks over. And back then, they used to call us 65. I don't know where that came from. But this guy yells, he goes, 65. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I knew what it meant. And he said, cops are coming. And it's like, I'm getting out of here. I'm trying to open the door, and he's trying to lock the door. And I had managed to get all the deadbolts undone. And the next thing you know, they kick the door in, launch me across the room, and chase this guy upstairs. They arrest him. So afterwards, it's like, guys, what are you doing? And they said, well, you hit the panic button. I said, I never hit the panic button. So we go back to the office, and we play the tape. Everything's recorded. The guy's answering machine went off. We had never used that before. And they heard the beep, so they came in to save me. And I just remember laying on the floor and saying he went that way.
Oh, my goodness. That is.
That's amazing.
But see, there's another, that's scary. You're in there by
yeah.
yourself, and he's got 1,000 deadbolts he's trying to get so he can get out of there. And crazy.
And things like that, they don't always go,
the way he's playing.
you always have a plan.
Yeah.
And whatever plan A is, you better have a B, because A never works
Works
out.
out. Yep. So, you don't have nothing yet?
As soon as we get done, it's going to come.
Well,
Oh yeah, I can guarantee it.
All right, so let's move on to shout-out time.
It's shout out time.
So, and you're not limited to one shout-out. You can shout out to everybody, and whoever, give some shout-outs to whoever you want.
I'd shout out to my parents. My father's deceased. My mother's still with us, but if it wasn't for my upbringing and the care my parents gave me and support, I don't know where I would be. I can't tell you how important my family is to me, my wife and kids, and that support system, just day by day. If I'm going to thank anybody, it's my wife and kids and my mother. They've been there every step of the way, and that'd be my big shout out. I'd like to thank all of our SROs in Trumbull County, whether they be our deputies or police officers. It takes a special person to do this job, and the influence that they provide to the children. And when I say the children are our future, they really are. And you'll look back someday, and you'll look at Deputy Gear, and Deputy Gear will probably never hear this from you, but he's affected you. He's affected other kids in this school. And I know that our SROs all over Trumbull County and all over the United States affect kids every day in a positive manner. And they don't usually get that feedback. And sometimes it's years later. And I can tell you that I've been to functions where kids have come up, and my old partner, Frank Dillon, they would come up and they always would say, Officer Dillon, you were my DARE instructor. And they would relay a story and a decision they may have made because of him. And he was just an outstanding person, did a great job, and he affected many lives. You just don't know how that happens, but you think back to some of the teachers you've dealt with and some decisions you make in the future. you look at your educators, they really influence you.
Which is funny because I do run into a lot of kids, out and about, and I call you guys my kids. You guys are my kids. And my wife will be with me, and she'll say, I take it that's one of your kids? I'm like, yep, that's one of my kids. So, I mean, and it's good. I mean, I like seeing everybody out, and it's nice. I had a lot of people that graduated and came back, or I ran into them somewhere, and they've said a lot of nice things. So just that makes what I'm doing worth what I'm doing. But I do have a shout out, and it's funny you said your parents, because my dad passed away 2 years ago, and his birthday was just 2 days ago. So shout out to my father. I love you. Got any shout outs?
My mama, my papa. My mama is, I don't know how, but preparing the Thanksgiving dinner even though she's sick. I don't know how.
She's doing it. Yep. Oh, yeah. I'm actually cooking ours. Well, my wife has to work.
I can't wait.
So, that brings us to out of service. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Hit those likes. Happy Thanksgiving, and peace out till next time.